Thank you very much. My name is Albert Dumont. All my relations know me as Oshkinoden, which means new wind in the Algonquin language. I'm glad to be here, and I'll help out however I can in the future. I was thinking, I haven't seen a ceiling like that since the summer of '65. I'd like to recommend whoever did it for a raise. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a human rights activist, and my family moved away from Kitigan, Zibi in the '50s, and we went to a mining town where we were the only Indigenous family living there. And those first few weeks that we lived in the town, some people came at night and they told us to go back where we came from. And we'd been living in that area for many, many thousands of years. And just go back where you came from, you damn Indians. You know, as God is my witness, I've never hated anybody in my life. I don't understand hatred. I don't get it. There's no payoff to hate. Hate destroys the potential of a human being to be a better human being. Or a city like Ottawa to be a better city, a greater city. Or a country like Canada to be a greater country. That's what hate does. And I reject it. And I want my children to reject it and my grandchildren too. I began writing poetry in 1993. I live with chronic pain. 29 and a half years ago, I fell 43 feet. That's over 4 floors. And I was working on scaffolding, repairing a chimney on a grist mill. And the tower section of scaffolding I was on just collapsed, and I was right up at the top. So I didn't think I'd live to tell about it. And the only reason why I did live is because I landed on my feet. I still did a lot of damage, though. I crushed vertebrae in my back. I cracked vertebrae, and I cracked my spine above and below the damaged vertebrae. I had a pound and a half of stainless steel nuts and bolts holding my spine together for almost 2 years. So I live with chronic pain. I don't take anything for it. I've adapted to living with pain. I could take it. Physical pain is what it is. Emotional pain is worse. I'd prefer to be living with physical pain than emotional pain. We have to keep each other well emotionally. Your family, your young people, especially the teenagers. We have to look after each other emotionally. Because anybody that's not good to go emotionally isn't going to do very well in this life, I don't think. So we just need to remember that. I love writing poetry. I'm in the winter of my life right now, and I hope I've got a long winter ahead of me because I want to write more and more and more and more and more poetry. There's reasons, I guess, why I write whatever. Anyways, I'm going to read you this poem. Those things that I have done, those things that I regret, I will not run. They shall not bring about my death. Those things that I am sorry for, those things from my past, I will leave them at the sweat lodge door. I will suffer on a fast. Those things that I regret, I will not run. They shall not bring about my death. When great mystery calls me home, I will never more be alone. I will dance beyond the sun in a circle with those I met. I will not run. Those things will not bring about my death. I wrote this. I call to the land that I never more be alone, and that my heart be carried on noble wing to the memories of the good times I have known, and that the walkers on a straight trail afford me calm when my eyes and premonitions fail, and that the swimmers who never touch the shore bestow assurance of water forevermore, and that the crawlers on their journey of soft caress relate to Mother Earth the feelings which I express. I call to the land. I you know the the land means everything to me. Like the forest is a place of wisdom. I know this old man who said he went into the forest one night to do a ceremony, and he marked out a circle, and he sat in the center of the circle. And when it got dark, he said he heard some brushes moving and the leaves were crackling, and he thought it was a bear, and he ran away. And he went to the camp where the old people were, and the old people said to him, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "Well, I think there's a bear." And then he said how much it hurt his heart that they laughed at him. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, if it was a bear, it wasn't there to eat you. Whenever you're doing a ceremony, you don't have to fear the bears and the wolves and the spiders and the mice. They'll honor you for doing that, right? I will remember you when the birds sing their songs from the branches of budding leaves, and when the ripened berries send their soothing fragrance in the soft and gentle breeze. I will remember you when the trees of the rolling hills hold colors of orange, red, and yellow, and when Mother Earth sleeps under the white and crystal layers of a deep and sparkling snow. I will remember you, for when you extended your caring hand, I was given hope. There was, after I broke my back and I wasn't paralyzed and I wasn't dead, it wasn't enough for me to say to Creator, "Thank you, Creator," and then walk along in life. I wanted to do an action of thanksgiving. So I volunteered at St. Vincent's Hospital for 9 years. Every Wednesday I went to St. Vincent's Hospital, no matter how busy my life was, and I went to visit this man who was paralyzed from the neck down. He was a Cree man from Moose Factory, and me and him became good friends. The first day that I met him, I said to him, I want to be your friend. And he was suspicious, He said, "Why do you want to be my friend?" Because he was wondering who the heck I was. I said, "I'm looking for a new friend, and if you allow me to be your friend," I said, "I promise you that I will be your good friend until either I'm dead or until you're dead." And he was only 35 years old at the time, and he died. And he died when he was 44 because he was paralyzed from the neck down, and his body wasn't getting exercise and stuff, and he just took a virus, and he died one day. And because he was a young man, and he'd have his bad days. So sometimes the nurses would come and he wouldn't be in a very good mood. And I guess he'd cuss at them a bit and whatever. And the nurses objected to that. And they said to the executive director, "He needs to stop cursing at us or we won't work with him anymore." So the executive director said to me, "You're going to have to tell Mike to stop cursing at the nurses." I said, "Look at here. Mike is a young man. He's entitled to have a bad day. He's paralyzed from the neck down. You can't hit them. If they can't stand to be cussed at by a young man who had a life, an athletic life before," I said, "let them go and work with babies. They won't swear at them." But, he's not, tell them to put up with it. Anyway, so Mike felt bad, and he asked me to write a poem that he could put in a frame and give to the nurses. And this is what I wrote. "I hear your soothing voice, and it sings the great song of hope. And your warm, compassionate eyes calm my frightened heart. And your soft and gentle touch lifts my will and reassures my battered spirit. And when you stand near my sick bed, the room fills with the dedication and commitment you have to all who are sick and infirm, and I am comforted by your presence. I will forevermore honor the memory of your goodness, and when I hear your soothing voice, it sings the great song of hope. This is the second book of poetry that I wrote. It sold out a long time ago. Called this one No Matter How Wounded. No matter how wounded, I will endeavor to survive. No matter the misery, I will fight to stay alive. For I am aware of the rhyme of my ancestors. For I am aware of the times of my ancestors. And one day, when my soul departs my lifeless body, I pray it is Kichi Manado who has called me, and I pray my ancestors bid me welcome, no matter how wounded I am when I arrive. One time I wanted to see how quickly I could write a poem. I wrote this poem in 5 minutes, honestly. Well, maybe you'll say, well, no wonder, it's not a very good poem. Anyways, I looked at the time, it was March 21st, 6:15 a.m., and that's what I named the poem. I watched the rain descend, scattered drops plunging fatefully to their destiny, innocence with an explosive end. North wind must have let out a sigh. The drops have transformed, scattered flakes with no weight, dancing about in their whiteness. No explosion, no water, just water seeping into the taut, warm earth. North wind's frozen breath. The flakes are big like dead moths, killed and falling straight down. North wind plays, the moths come to life. More come, joining the crazy dance. Mid-air explosions, water seeping into the taut, warm earth. Too many to see, only white. I think of wrongs. Will God let fall our sins in this manner on the last day? How deep in sin will Mother Earth be? How many moons will pass before the last sin falls? I close my eyes and pray. Well, it's 5 minutes. Did you ever hear the poem Footprints in the Sand? Yeah, it's in. It used to always be under author unknown. I didn't write that one. But whenever it was a lady from British Columbia, and it took her 30 years to prove that she wrote it. And Carlton Cards, I think, made a contract with her, and they bought copyright, and I think they gave her $220,000 for copyright of that one poem. So this little poem that I wrote here, I'm expecting Carlton Cards to come and knock on my door any day now. If your wish was to be a turtle, then I would wish to be your shell, for already I stand to protect you like a shield that heartache could never bend. And if your wish was to be an eagle, then I would wish to be the wind that carries you to the highest peaks of peace and serenity, for I am your truest friend. You know, somebody said they didn't like that poem one day, and I said, why is that? And the guy says, well, there's no such word as truest. Okay, there is now. I'm not kidding you. Yeah. So I think a lot of my ancestors. Whenever I think of my ancestors, I think of the whoever it was that first saw in a vision a birch bark canoe. A birch bark canoe is not an easy thing to construct. It's very, very complicated. A lot of engineering knowledge is needed to build a birch bark canoe. The Algonquins had birch bark canoe building down to a science at the time with contact with Europeans. We could build big canoes that held a lot of men and a lot of cargo, and the canoe went over white water and it didn't fall apart. That's how well those canoes were made. Anybody that could invent a birch bark canoe could invent anything, right? Anyway, I mentioned that one day, and somebody in the audience says, if you guys could do that, why didn't you just build big ships? And I said, well, because we didn't want to leave. Everything we needed was right here. That was, I wrote this. In the darkness, I lay myself down. In the darkness, I know where I'm bound. I close my eyes to darkness the same. I close my eyes and I see him again. He visits me often, but I know not his name. He visits me often to comfort my pain. His wrinkles are deep, as though cut with a knife. His wrinkles are deep, they speak of his life. He wears skins and deer he has honored. He wears skins embroidered and flowered. He does not speak, but tells me many things. He does not speak, yet relates his beginnings. The old man is my grandfather, who lived thousands of moons ago. The old man is my grandfather, who comes to tell me things I must know. When I was, I had severe addiction issues up until 31 and a half years ago. And it's not like there was a lot of things that connected me to my identity when I was a young person. Everything that was there was all negative stuff, actually. So whenever I'd see something made with moose hide or a photograph or whatever, I'd connect to it. I'd say that person is that person's bloodline has been here for thousands of years. So I wrote this poem about, I made up this name, Old Lakota Man Bull Calf. You stand straight in the photograph, 1884, Old Lakota Man Bull Calf. Sadder eyes there never could be, wiser eyes I never did see. Old Lakota Man Bull Calf, I long someday to hear you laugh. Your liberties had disappeared, only in vision they reappeared. Blood of massacred buffalo left the prairie wet, I know. Left your nation death, I know. Old Lakota Man Bull Calf, I long someday to hear you laugh. Your children dead of disease, you sense them in a breeze. You see them as spirits flying above the trees. Old Lakota Man Bull Calf, I long someday to hear you laugh. With your way of life stolen and with pain in a heart so swollen, you stand straight in the photograph, 1884, Old Lakota Man Bull Calf. I long someday to hear you laugh. So this is, so I'm a poet, and that makes me a deep thinker. So one day I was saying to myself, what would a newborn baby say if it was allowed to make a statement to the world, just at the time that the water broke and there it was, breathing its first breaths of life. And this is what I believe a newborn baby would say. I was born loving of humankind, of bird life, of plant life, and of colors. I was born loving of the legged, of the crawlers, of the swimmers, and of the wind. I was born loving of the sun, of the moon, of the stars, and of the rocks. I was born loving of the rivers, of the streams, of the lakes, and of the rain. I was born loving of all goodness, for I remember the heartbeat of my mother. Now I seek your knowledge and wisdom. Give me teachings to keep fresh my memories of the heartbeat. For without the inspiration of the heartbeat, my circle will surely shatter, and I will forevermore be afraid.